Hello, everybody. Alrighty then. Welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, Thursday, October the 16th, 2025. Um, so, of course, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. So, hopefully, everybody's having a good week this week, because we're now in the latter half of it, of course. Um, let's see. Um, A friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions best of my ability. That goes for both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. Um, let me just do something here. All right, so hopefully that will help a little bit there. Give it a sec. Alrighty then. So, anyways, as I said, we're just gonna give it a moment to see if we can get some more people to come in. Hopefully, everybody's having a good week this week. Um. Oh yeah. So let's see. 2 minutes. Yeah. Kind of excited about the article I'm going to be going over tonight. Just because nice to see that this particular franchise and product will be getting shown. So I guess I'll just go ahead and just get right in. So tonight we got an article we're gonna do from MeTV Tunes. Um, there's an announcement that was made today in regards to a programming change, and we are going to, of course, follow up with a bit of a history lesson on that particular character, and I'll mention that in a moment. Also, of course, as always, we'll have the wrestling wrap up, and then wrap things up with this day in each history. All right, so it is 3 minutes now, so I guess I'll talk. So tonight, of course, as I said, we're going to go over an article from MeTV Tunes. Um, they announced today that they'll be adding Mighty Mouse and Friends to their lineup. We'll get more into that information as we get into the article. And then, of course, afterwards, we'll go over the history of Mighty Mouse as well, as originally created by Paul Terry. So, with that being said, why don't we go ahead? I'm guessing we're just going to go ahead and get started here. Let me pull that stuff up. Here I come to save the day. A mighty mouse is on his way. So, anyways, again, a friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. And I'm just waiting because apparently the signal is being a little goofy here. All right. So with that, so anyways, let's go ahead and get started. Of course, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream if you haven't already. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that being said, let's get into this. Mighty Mouse and Friends is coming to MeTV Tunes. All right, so let's get into this here. The Mouse of Tomorrow will be on MeTV Tunes soon. Article posted today by MeTV Toon staff. So let's see what's all going on here. Here I come to save the day. Terry Toons fans, it's finally your time to shine because Mighty Mouse is coming to MeTV Toons. We have another classic cartoon joining our lineup, Mighty Mouse and Friends. This new programming block will feature classic Terry Toons cartoons, including Mighty Mouse, Heckle and Jekyll, Terry Bears, Mighty Heroes, and Mighty Mouse and New Adventures. Now I'm hoping to maybe we'll throw in some like Farm Alfalfa, some Candy Goose and Sourpuss, maybe some Dinky Duck, Hector Heathcote. Sure, much like with the other like programming blocks they have, like Popeye and Pals, Bugs Bunny and Friends, the House of Hanna-Barbera, the Woody Woodpecker Show, Tom and Jerry, all those. So this block will include shorts from both Mighty Mouse Playhouse, which was back in the 50s, I believe, 50s, early 60s, and Mighty Mouse and New Adventures, which is more late 80s, early 90s. This will be the first time Mighty Mouse has aired on broadcast television in decades. Originally debuting in 1942 as a series of theatrical shorts created by the Terry Toons studio for 20th Century Fox, Mighty Mouse is a superhero mouse with extraordinary powers. The mouse later went on to delight TV audiences watching Saturday morning cartoons for decades. In 1987, acclaimed film animator Ralph Bakshi revived the Mighty Mouse franchise with higher quality production compared to the animated series of the time. Animation historian Jerry Beck said Bakshi's Mighty Mouse, quote, foreshadowed the higher quality animation boom coming in the next decade. So he's talking about the animation boom of the 90s, that gave us such classics as the DCAU, but then, starting out with, Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, all that, those set of franchises, Tiny Toons, Gargoyles, Animaniacs, Freakazoid, all that, The series was also one of the first Saturday morning cartoons to be broadcast in stereo. Wow, didn't know that one. Mighty Mouse and Friends will join the MeTV Toons schedule beginning on November 2nd and air every Sunday from 3 p.m. Eastern to Central, 12 noon Pacific, to 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. So essentially, they're taking over the block is currently held by Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones. Block that's currently held, for the Scooby-Doo Sunday specials and Flintstone Family Sundays. They're getting kind of switched out with Mighty Mouse and Friends. Watch Mighty Mouse on MeTV Toons coming November 2nd. All right, so that's just a few weeks away here. That's what about, let's see. So, Saturday, Sunday, let me see, I'm just trying to think here. Saturday 18th, so Sunday the 19th, so 30, yeah. So 2 weeks in the Sunday, basically, is when Mighty Mouse will be joining the MeTV Toons card. All right, so with that, I'm going to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. Try to hopefully deal with an issue here, but I'll put some music on while I'm gone. All right, I'm back. So hopefully we'll have some more stuff of interest here. Let me just clear this out for a moment while we make a transition. Right. So as I said, with that announcement, of course, we're going to go ahead and give a little history lesson on the, of course, on the anthropomorphic superheroic mouse. Let's see. I'm sure some of us probably did grow up with some of the Mighty Mouse cartoons, of course, in some form or another. So, anyways, let's take a look back at some of the history here. At least the intro and then the history of Mighty Mouse here. So, Mighty Mouse is an American animated character created by the Terrytoon Studio for 20th Century Fox. So, Paul Terry was the guy who created him. He is an anthropomorphic superhero mouse, originally called Super Mouse, and made his debut in the 1942 short The Mouse of Tomorrow. I can see, even though I haven't read why they changed it, I think I have a pretty good idea now why they changed his name. If we know our history, folks, we know, I'm sure national publications was sending out some cease and desist orders, as it were, unless they changed the name was changed to Mighty Mouse in his 8th film, 1944's The Wreck of the Hesperus. And the character went on to star in 80 theatrical shorts, including in 1961 with Catalorn. In 1955, Mighty Mouse Playhouse debuted as a Saturday morning cartoon show on the CBS television network, which popularized the character far more than the original theatrical run. The show lasted until 1967, so 12 years there. Filmation revived the character in The New Adventures of Mighty Mouse and Heckle and Jekyll, which ran from 1979 to 1980, and animation director Ralph Bakshi revived the concept again in Mighty Mouse: The New Adventures in 1987 to 1988. Mighty Mouse also appeared in comic books by several publishers, including his own series, Mighty Mouse and The Adventures of Mighty Mouse, which ran from 1946 to 1968. Of course, Terrytoons were often so one of the companies that would publish the comic books was, of course, Dell Comics and later Gold Key, known for basically taking the intellectual property from intellectual property from elsewhere and making comic book adaptations. Mighty Mouse is known for his theme song, quote, Mighty Mouse theme, "Here I come to save the day," written by composer Marshall Barer. All right, so let's look at some more of the basic here in the box to the right here. Terrytoon's character, Mighty Mouse, says he appeared in 1940s theatrical shorts made by the Terrytoon Studio for 20th Century Fox. So there he is right there. And again, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking, sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. That goes for both my YouTube and my Rumble viewers. So, with that being said, let's look at the box over here. So, Mighty Mouse. So, first appearance, Mouse of Tomorrow, 1942, created by Paul Terry and Izzy Klein. And then the voices over the years, of course, Roy Haley, who did his voice for the theatrical cartoons and singing. Alan Swift provided the voice of Mighty Mouse for Mighty Mouse's first adventure. Tom Morrison provided his speaking voice in the theatrical cartoons. Alan Oppenheimer, a pretty well-known voice actor, is still with us today. I think he's like 91, 92. Provide the voice of Mighty Mouse in the New Adventures of Mighty Mouse, Heckle and Jekyll for, of course, Filmation. And then Patrick Penny provided the voice of Mighty Mouse for Mighty Mouse and New Adventures. Of course, species mouse, gender male. All right, so now with all the basic information out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the history of Mighty Mouse. So, the character originated in 1942. Okay, so history, Super Mouse. The character originated in 1942 from an idea by animator Isadora Klein at the Terry Toon Studio, who suggested a parody homage to the popular Superman character. So they outright said it. But I guess they felt they were trying to pay homage to him or parody it, and I guess maybe national publications did not take too kindly to that, I guess. But we'll wait and see on that. Making some sketches of a superhero fly. Paul Terry, the head of the studio, liked the idea, but suggested a mouse rather than an insect. Of course, to take notes from another studio at the time, Walt Disney, with Mickey Mouse, right? The character was dubbed Super Mouse, and his first theatrical short, The Mouse of Tomorrow, debuted on October 16th, 1942. Wow! October 16th, 1942. So that was 83 years ago. And October 16th, which happens to be today's date. 83 years ago today, Mighty Mouse debuted on 20th Century Fox film screens, theater screens, as Super Mouse. Wow. No wonder MeTV made the announcement today. 83 years ago today, Mighty Mouse as Super Mouse debuted on theatrical screens there. Let's see. In his book of Mice and Magic, critic Leonard Maltin describes the character's origin story. Let's see. Cats of the city have imposed a reign of terror on the rodent community. The mice have barely a chance to live in peace, with endless traps and clever feline footwork sealing their doom. One mouse manages to escape from a particularly hungry cat and runs for shelter into an enormous supermarket. He examines the goods on the long lines of shelves and sets to work on a total transformation. He bathes in super soap, swallows super soup, munches super celery, and plunges headfirst into an enormous piece of super cheese. Now, could you imagine cutting that super cheese, right? Hey, yeah. Can you imagine cutting super cheese? Probably give Limburger cheese a run for its money with its stench. from which he emerges in a flash as Super Mouse. He's no longer a tiny rodent, but a two-footed, human-sized mouse with a massive chest and powerful biceps. His costume is like Superman's, with a flowing red cape, and his powers are similar too. He can fly through the air and repel bullets with his chest. Super Mouse soars to the rescue of his fellow mice and dispatches the neighborhood cats to the moon. Can you imagine? He grabs a tail, swings him around, and swings him so hard with such force that he propels them all the way to the moon, just getting past the atmosphere of Earth's gravity and atmosphere. That's one powerful mouse, wouldn't you say? Returning to Earth, he is hoisted on the shoulders of his happy comrades. As the narrator declares, quote, "Thus ends the adventure of Super Mouse. He's seen his job, and he done it." The trade journal Variety said, "The Mouse of Tomorrow, quote, just misses being outstanding, mainly because of faulty narration and too much kidding of Superman. Idea of super rat conquering prowling beast of feline world is good, but too closely follows pattern of that superhero." Super Mouse and his later alias, Mighty Mouse, was originally voiced by Roy Haley Sr., a tenor who often sang on radio and first started doing cartoon voices for J.R. Bray's studio. So J.R. Bray, that was back in the 20s. Somewhat of a precursor to Terry Toons in many ways. In the operatic melodramas to follow, Haley and his quartet provided all of the vocals. In Super Mouse's next film, he spoofed the popular Universal Monsters films. Let's see, Frankenstein's Cat, 1942, in Pandora's Box, 1943. Oh, in Pandora's Box, 1943, he battled bat-winged cat demons, and his origin story was changed. Now he becomes Super Mouse by eating vitamins A through Z. The hero made 7 films in 1942 to 1943 before his name was changed. Now we're going to see why that all went down. Mighty Mouse rename and redesign. So the picture right here on the left here, Mighty Mouse as the character originally appeared wearing a costume reminiscent of Superman's. So kind of the blue and red color scheme, much like Superman. So there you go there. And now we're going to find out why he changed the name. So Mighty Mouse rename and redesign. So in 1944, Paul Terry learned that another character named Super Mouse, quote unquote, was to be published in Standard Comics, Cuckoo Comics. So his character's name was changed to Mighty Mouse. The first short under the character's new name was The Wreck of the Hesperus. So it wasn't because DC had a problem with it. It's because there was another the comic book standard, with their Cuckoo comic. I guess Paul Terry decided to change it to where the two characters wouldn't be confused. Let's see. The first short, Wreck of the Hesperus, released February 11th, 1944, adapting the celebrated poem of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, with the addition of a superhero mouse. A couple months later, the studio spoofed another classic, Robert Louis Stevenson's Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, under the title Mighty Mouse meets Jekyll and Hyde Cat. By summer, Mighty Mouse's costume got an overhaul as well. Until this point, he'd been wearing Superman's colors, a blue costume with a red cape. But in the June 16th, 1944 cartoon, Eliza on the Ice, Mighty Mouse appears for the first time in a red costume with a yellow cape. Now that's more akin to Captain Marvel right there. That's more akin to Captain Marvel right there. This is also the first time that the character was portrayed as living among the stars, hurtling down from the heavens to save the day. The final design of the character debuted in the 15th cartoon, The Sultan's Birthday, released on October 13, 1944. In this cartoon, redesigned by animator Connie Rasinski, Mighty Mouse has a fuller figure with an exaggerated upper body and is clad in a yellow outfit with a red cape and trunks, which is the probably the more well-known look of Mighty Mouse right there. Like its inspiration, Superman, Mighty Mouse's superpowers are vast and sometimes appear limitless. Main powers include flight, super strength, and invulnerability. The early cartoons often portrayed him as a ruthless fighter. One of his most frequent tactics is to fly under the enemy's chin and let loose a volley of blows, subduing the opponent through sheer physical punishment. The idea of boom, 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 right to the chin, right? Boom, 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 boom. However, his powers can vary depending on the demands of the story. He is sometimes knocked unconscious and rendered temporarily immobile by the villain, only to rise again by the end of the cartoon and save the day. In some films, he uses X-ray vision and psychokinesis. He was also able to turn back time. 1946's The Johnstown Flood. Other cartoons, like 1945's Krakatoa, show him leaving a red contrail during flight that he can manipulate like a band of solid, flexible matter. Basically whipping people with it, I take it. In several of the cartoons, when Mighty Mouse achieves the impossible feats, the narrator exclaims, first in a normal voice, "What a mouse!" quote unquote, followed by his louder, triumphant voice, "What a mouse!" quote unquote. In a 1969 interview, Terry said that Mighty Mouse's power had a religious aspect. Quote, when a man is sick or down or hurt, you say, in smaller quotes, there's nothing more we can do. It's in God's hands, unsmaller quote. and he either survives or he doesn't according to God's plan, right? So, in small quotes, man's extremity is God's opportunity. So taking that as a basis, I'd only have to get a mice in a tough spot and then say, in small quotes, isn't there someone who can help? Actually, that's kind of similar to what they did with Underdog, too, I believe. Underdog kind of had the same, at least with that premise right there, had a very similar premise right there. Underdog, of course, cartoon from the 60s, 1965, I believe. Quote, yes, there is. It's Mighty Mouse. So down from the heavens, he'd come sailing down and lick the evil spirit, or whatever it was, and everything would be serene again, unquote. Biographer W. Gerald Harmonic notes that as of the mid 40s, Mighty Mouse would be pictured living on a star or a cloud up in the heavens, and that he became a, quote, a Christ-like figure, a savior of all mouse kind, unquote. I do need to step away from the computer again for a moment, so I'll be right back as soon as I, of course, find the cursor here. I'm going to put some music on. Again, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, okay. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So hopefully. Anyways, getting back to the article here. So, while his typical opponents are nondescript cats, Mighty Mouse occasionally battles specific villains, though most appear in only one or two films. Several of the earliest Super Mouse films, in parentheses, having been made during World War II, in parentheses, feature the cats as thinly veiled caricatures of the National Socialists, hunting down mice and marching them into concentration camps like traps to what would otherwise be their doom. The bat cats, alien cats with bat wings and wheels for feet, appeared in two cartoons. In two others, between 1949 and 1950, he faces a huge, dim-witted, but super strong cat named Julius Pinhead Schlabotka, voiced by Dayton Allen, whose strength rivals Mighty Mouse's. In rare moments, he confronts non-feline adversaries such as human villain Bad Bill Bunyan and his horse, or the automatic mousetrap, a brontosaurus-shaped robotic machine. In The Green Line, 1944, the cats and the mice live on either side of a green dividing line down the middle of the town's main street. They agree to keep the peace as long as no one crosses it. An evil entity, a Satan cat, starts the cats and mice fighting. At the end, Mighty Mouse is cheered by mice and cats alike. All right, so that's at least enough for today. Enough on that material today. Getting a basic idea of the early history of Mighty Mouse there. Oh, there we go with that. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to wrestling wrap up. And we do have some news from out of WWE, of course. A couple of pieces of news came out in the last couple of days here. So first off, as previously reported, Seth Rollins hurt himself during his match against Cody Rhodes at Crown Jewel Perth in Australia. Trying to execute a coast-to-coast diving headbutt, landed on his arm wrong and thereby broke his arm. There's now talk that he may actually be out for the first, not just the foreseeable future, but probably well up until after WrestleMania 42. So he might be out for at least the next 6 months. There's still more to be looked at before turning. So it might look like he might actually have to vacate the World Heavyweight title. He's going to, obviously he's going to miss Survivor Series. He's going to probably miss Royal Rumble and most likely, and even WrestleMania. So he's going to be out. So Seth Rollins is going to be out for quite a bit. In another piece of what I think many would consider somewhat disappointing news, as well as it's kind of like I'm not seems like a bad move too on the WWE's part too. So WWE sent a cease and desist order to AEW. So as many of you know, Andrade was released from the WWE about a month ago, right? They claim that he, I guess, broke some rules. There's some talk that he may have failed some substance test, and they decided to let him go. initially it was reported that they just didn't seem to care. They weren't going to enforce apparently they weren't going to enforce the 90-day no compete clause, or either that or that there wasn't a no complete, but apparently they've clarified that now. So, because as some of you know, Andrade about a week ago, a couple weeks back, did actually make his re-debut with AEW, attacking Kenny Omega. Looks like they were going to set up a program for that, only for him to all of a sudden go off TV again, be taken off the shows and off. It's been said that apparently WWE clarified it and said that they were still expecting him to honor a no compete clause, and yet they were also not going to pay, even though they're not paying him for that time. They basically say that they feel they don't have to pay him to honor that no compete clause because he broke rules. That's their reasoning for it, But that's kind of. And granted, I know that Andrade could probably do other things, like maybe do some, television appearances in Mexico and what have you, to kind of recoup some of the money that he'd be losing if the WWE is forcing him to sit out and not choosing to pay him. But you can't really have it both ways. You can't, if as part of the contract is that if you decide to release him and there is a no compete clause and you're obligated to pay him for that time, then you should pay him. Regardless of why you decided to let them go. Short of an actual criminal situation, right? I mean, yeah, nobody would expect him to be paid if, let's say, he actually committed a full-on crime, especially if it was a felony or something like that. But there seemed to be still some sketchiness on why he was let go in the first place. And now it's almost like, now it's almost like they're saying, well, you have to sit out the 90 days and we are not going to pay you. Can't have it both ways. You either have him sit out the 90 days and pay him, or if you're not going to pay him, then let him work. Let him work for AEW. I mean, I would, if I was Andrade, I would think that maybe Andrade would possibly look into maybe taking legal action on that, because that's still not right. You can't just do that. You can't. I mean, that's almost punitive. If you're obligated to pay him for the 90, if you're going to have him sit out 90 days, okay, and you're obligated to pay him, you should still have to pay him, regardless of why you let him go. Okay, you can't have it both ways. That's just not right. All right, that's just not right. You can't either let him compete and don't pay him, or pay him to sit out. So, anyways, so with that, let's also take a look at back at last night's. So they had a special 3-hour kind of combo Dynamite Collision last night. This was the go home. Many would say this was a go home shows before this weekend's Wrestle Dream pay-per-view. And they're going to also have another Collision episode serving as a pre-show to the pay-per-view, the Saturday Tailgate Brawl. But we'll get into all that in a moment here. So looking back to last night's Dynamite Collision, let's start with that. On last night's Dynamite, with, of course, coming from the Cable Dahmer Arena in Independence, Missouri, with Bryan Danielson, Excalibur, and Tony Schiavone on commentary, with Adam Page being on, coming on for the main event, and Don Callis, of course, out there for one of his guys rather. The show opened up with Gates of Agony getting the win over the Hurt Syndicate. Bishop Khan and Toa Leona getting the win over the former AEW World Tag Team Champions Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley. Claudio Castagnoli defeated Roderick Strong in a singles match. Kenny Omega and the Jurassic Express defeated the Don Callis family members of Josh Alexander, Mark Davis, and Age Cesaro. Jamie Hayter defeated Sky Blue in a singles match, also with Tekla coming out and Tekla not coming out, but coming onto the Titantron to basically, or the screen to basically tell Jamie that she's got a toxic plan for her coming up at this Saturday's Wrestle Dream, as they'll be involved in a one-on-one match. And in the main event for Dynamite saw the ops of Powerhouse Hobbs, Samoa Joe, and Katsuyori Shibata retaining the AEW World Trios titles over La Facción Ingobernables of Jalisco, Beast Mortos, and Rush. Rush is also the one half of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions right now. Now, of course, moving on to Collision. Collision was right after that. On last night's Collision, with, of course, again, Bryan Danielson, Excalibur, and Tony Schiavone on commentary, coming from the same place, Cable Dahmer Arena in Independence, Missouri. The opening match saw Danny Garcia and Wheeler Yuta of the Death Riders defeat the conglomeration duo of Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly. In a match that was set up earlier in the night on Dynamite, Megan Bayne of the now new stable Top Gods defeated Harley Cameron. And in the main event saw AEW World Tag Team Champions Brodito of Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito and Brody King teaming with Mark Briscoe to defeat the Don Callis family in six-man tag action as Lance Archer, Kyle Fletcher, the TNT champion, and Rocky Romero. And of course, Brodito will be defending the AEW World Tag Team titles against Don Callis family members Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita. There seems to be a little bit of a heat going on there, as during Dynamite, during I guess the Don Callis' birthday party, Takeshita had sent a video message. He was not able to be there because, I guess due to some other commitments. But Okada supposedly accidentally turned off the feed. So anyways, so yeah, and then of course Mark Briscoe will be challenging Kyle Fletcher for the TNT title as well at Wrestle Dream. So quite a bit going on there. So now let's look ahead to tonight's action on TNA Impact and Ring of Honor. I guess Impact isn't on tonight, I guess, or something to that effect, because I don't see anything here on it. Unless could be a live show, but let me just check something here. something last week. So I guess there isn't any. Oh, so actually coming live. So coming live tonight. So there'll be a live TNA Impact on tonight's show. Oh, I'm sorry. No. That's 11:13. I'm sorry. Misread that. I thought that was tonight. But yeah. So we don't know anything about tonight's show yet from Impact. So we're gonna move on to Ring of Honor then. Look ahead to tonight's Ring of Honor on Ring of Honor on Honor Club, coming from the RP Funding Center in Lakeland, Florida, with Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni on commentator. Wheeler Yuta of the Death Riders will be taking on Oro in a mixed 6-person tag match. The grizzled young veterans of James Drake and Zach Gibson team up with Isla Dawn, former WWE talent, to take on the team of Carolina Cruz, Gabriel Eros, and Javi. New Japan star Alex Zane will be taking on Sydney Akeem. Then Diamante will be taking on Leah James in singles action. Shannon Moore, named from long past, former WCW star, will be taking on Blake Christian. In the main event, we'll see the Von Erichs of Marshall and Ross Von Erich taking on the frat houses Griff Garrison and Cole Carter in the main event. So there we have it for the wrestling wrap-up. So there we go with that. So now with today being Thursday, October 16th, 2025, let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Niche history. So let's see. Just remind myself of a few things here. 2019, 2000, 2015, and 2000. All right, so first off, we're going to head back 25 years ago. On this date, 25 years ago, back in the year 2000, WWE held its Go Home Raw before its No Mercy pay-per-view from the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan. As such, the main event of the show saw Team Eck of Edge, Christian, and Kurt Angle, with Stephanie McMahon Helmsley in their corner, defeat the Hardy Boys, Jeff and Matt Hardy, and The Rock, with Lita in their corner. In the main event, as of course Kurt Angle would be challenging The Rock at that following Sunday's No Mercy for the World Heavyweight titles. And the Hardys would be defending the WWF tag team titles against the Los Conquistadors. Val Venus with Steven Richards in his corner defeated Road Dogg. Los Conquistadors defeated Dudley Boys in a tag team match. Let's see. William Regal would defeat Al Snow for the WWF European Championship, and then would go on to defend the title at that following Sunday's No Mercy pay-per-view. In a prelude to their upcoming 6-person tag match, APA, who would be teaming with Lita at Sunday's No Mercy, defeated the team of TNA, Albert and Test, Trish Stratus in their corner. The show opened up with an Intercontinental title championship match in which Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho went to a no contest after just over a minute. where Eddie Guerrero retained the title. So with that, so there we have it. That there. Oops. Hmm. All right, there we go with that. So now, anyways, we shall now get ready to move on a bit here. So now, 2000 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. It's also on this date in the year 2000. We also on this date in the year 2000, on Japanese television, Sunrise's Inuyasha and Radix Studio Ox's Android Kikaider, the animation, both premiered on this date back in 2000, 25 years ago, on Japanese television. So on this date, 25 years ago, over in Japan, Sunrise's Inuyasha and Radix Studio Ox's Android Kikaider, the animation, both premiered on Japanese television. All right, so put that now. Now moving on to the next piece in each history. Let's see. So moving on to the year 2015, 10 years ago today, as soon as I grab that. This day on this date in the year 2015, 10 years ago today, Sony Pictures Goosebumps film, which was a 2015 American horror comedy film based on L. Stein's children's books of the same name, premiered in theaters on this date back in 2015. So 10 years ago today, the live action / computer animated Goosebumps film premiered on premiered in theaters on this date back in the year 2015. And finally, we head to the year 2019. On this date in the year 2019, 6 years ago today. 6 years ago today. The 15th and final issue of Realm from Image Comics went on sale on this date back in 2019. Sold for $3.99, was 28 pages. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. As we, of course, took a look at Mighty Mouse. Get some of his early history. Of course, we'll be back here with more Needs News tomorrow. Also, don't forget this Sunday I'll be joined by the Metal. We'll be looking at comics that went on sale from United Features back in the year June of 1940. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.